Welcome everyone to the December 17, 2003 meeting of the Palm Springs Planning Commission. A report on the agenda, please. Mr. Evans.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, the agenda was posted last Friday in accordance with state and local procedures. We did move the meeting today because the City Council is in the City Council chambers today. Their closed session starts at 4 o'clock. And they have to start their meeting in the council chambers and then adjourn. Therefore, we would have probably overlapped and not have enough time to set up for tonight's meeting.
This is a time for public comments. If anyone wishes to address the commission on any matter before it, now's the time. If you are here on a matter that's on our agenda, we would prefer that you hold your comments until that item is called. If you would like, however, now to come forward and speak, you certainly may. Please confine your comments to 3 minutes and sign the clipboard before you go. Anyone wishing to comment at this time? Come forward, please. Give us your name and address, and please sign the clipboard before you leave.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Robert Hazuka.
Robert.
I'm a full-time resident of Palm Springs and a member of the Tocowitz River Estates neighborhood. I address you as a voice of our neighborhood with the objective to make the Commission aware of and initiate action on an issue of urgent concern to our neighborhood and the community at large. Our neighborhood is located within an area roughly bounded by Sunny Dunes Road on the north, Sunrise Way on the east, Camino Real on the west, and San Lorenzo Road to the west. Our neighborhood has the distinction of being the first tract development of Palm Springs dating back to the late 1940s. The architectural vernacular of our neighborhood is reflected by low-profile, 10-foot in height, mid-century ranch-style homes whose footprints range between 1,000 and 2,000 square feet. The demographic profile of our neighborhood is a balanced mix of retirees, families, and a new influx of younger homeowners of the current generation. Our neighborhood has been enjoying a renaissance of home revitalization, expansion, and renovation. To date, this process has moved forward with respect for and in harmony with the architectural vernacular and the character of our neighborhood. We have reached a milestone with a recent demolition of a home typical of our neighborhood to make way for a new home. The scope of this new home unfolds as the building process moves forward. To our shock and dismay, with the recent demolition of a home typical of our neighborhood to make way for a new home, the scope unfolds. We see an erection now of a 4,000 square foot McMansion, if I will, a portion of which reaches almost 18 feet unfolding before our eyes. The 18-foot portion of this house also is an issue here because it's being erected in a place that it's objectionable. It is completely out of scale, harmony, and vernacular with the landscape and genre of our neighborhood and its homes. The quantifiable impact of this project is personal, neighborhood, and community in nature. The highlights of the impact are the casting of shadow and reduction of sunlight on neighboring properties, the obstruction of long existing and precious view shed west of the mountains, which is where this 18-foot height is occurring, the infringement on and loss of precious privacy, and the litmus test for the project presents with respect to the planning and approval process for future neighborhood and community development and improvement. Our immediate questions to your panel are how an unusual project of this dramatic scope and impact was approved without closer scrutiny of its effect on our neighborhood and the lack of official communication or solicitation with our community of the impending impact. 2, what steps we may take as a neighborhood to open a dialogue with the appropriate City of Palm Springs civic representatives to fine-tune the process of notification, review, and approval of future projects of this scale that have the potential for such dramatic change and impact on our community. Number 3, what steps we may take as citizens and a neighborhood to guide the legislation of the letter of the law to follow the intent of the law addressing these issues as clearly outlined in the current Palm Springs General Plan. I would like to provide you, the Chair, with a file to date detailing our collective neighborhood response and perspective on these issues. This file also includes 2 current signature lists, one by immediately affected and concerned neighbors, and one of other concerned community members that have authorized and support these comments to you today. And I thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Thank you very much for your comments. Thank you very much for your comments.
If I may pass this to you.
You may. We may be able to answer some of your questions, but we'll see if anyone else wants to address the commission. Anyone else want to address the commission in our public comment segment at this point? Again, if you're here on an agenda item, we'll be happy to take your comments at that time. Seeing none, Doug, this is not a matter that would have come before the Planning Commission, would it?
Yes, let me give you a quick update, and I think Alex has been the planner that's most familiar with the details. In our single-family residential zones on flat land is the best way to describe it. We do not have a design review process or a qualitative review process. The city has chosen for many, many years, and most of our neighborhoods have developed this way, that we have zoning ordinance standards. If you comply with the zoning ordinance standards, the aesthetics of your house are your choice, and as long as you comply with the minimum standards, you go directly to the building department for a technical code compliance check for building codes. They do minimal checking of all the planning issues, and in this case, double-checked with us. And this project, as I understand it, complies with all of our codes, all of our ordinances. It is a different scale than the neighborhood, but I think the Planning Commission, well, some of you might have been through some of the workshops where we've talked about the difference between 15-foot 6-inch from pad houses versus 18 feet. With our building envelope, 12 feet at the minimum setback, and the slope up to the ridge line. You know, when you get that into existing neighborhoods, and then you comply with current grading and drainage practices, you end up with houses that are taller than the neighboring houses. And we have places all over town where people have come in rightfully and built very boxy structures, some of them for storage of RVs. They meet code. And they may or may not fit, you know, with that particular neighborhood. So, you know, it's a by right of zone issue, so we don't look at it qualitatively. Even if we were uncomfortable with it, you know, just in our observations, by ordinance, it's a ministerial permit. If they comply with the code, we have to give them the permit. So we would have to develop a different type of system to be able to address this, either different types of zoning standards or neighborhood standards. There's ways to prevent this. In the past, when staff has raised this issue, you know, the commission has been fairly comfortable with the building envelope concept and allowing a little bit taller building, you know, provided you meet that side slope type situation. If you want more, we're going to end up, you know, responding to this gentleman's letter in writing, give him an outline. And what we have done so far is we've encouraged him to come to the Planning Commission to talk to you about it. You know, it's really a legislative issue, and you'd have to direct us to start looking at it. You know, and we'd be more than willing to take a look at this. But it's fairly complicated, and it would require some zoning changes, and then we'd have to decide how much involvement does the city want the staff to have when somebody goes to build a single-family home on flat land. And, you know, for the history of this city, the city's policy has been very little, other than basic code compliance, let people build per code.
Thank you, Doug. Any other comments?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I want to add something that, because one of the questions this gentleman asked was, you know, what else can be done? And I think it'd be important to draw your attention to the General Plan Steering Committee, which is redoing the city's general plan.
Which meets tomorrow.
Yeah, and it's an interesting time when, and we've seen, and you may have in other communities where, you know, values go up and the quality of life is such, and, you know, it's kind of a good and a bad thing where You come in, you tear down the house, you buy the house, and then you tear it down, you put up a monster. And in the neighborhood character section there may be neighborhoods in Palm Springs that want to show up there and have input in the general plan steering committee task force, because they're ultimately going to bring their recommendations to the planning commission and to the council. And short of changing the zoning code as it exists today, which people have been mildly comfortable with, really it's time for a general plan update, and this is an issue that's probably best addressed there to prevent future examples of this as well.
I went over the general plan in detail to find if there was anything that addressed this issue.
nothing
There
there.
is, and it's copied inside
Oh.
the file I gave you, so if you're welcome to share this with the rest of the panel. But it is not only general, it's very specific in addressing the issues that are concerning us as a neighborhood. So our question is, if there has to be something done, I don't know how often the zoning plan is reviewed. I think the general plan, I understand, is done every 5 years. I don't know, is there an agenda for reviewing the zoning plan?
Well, we don't want to debate it. I'd like to see a copy of that and read it, and we can get back to you, and I know you'll be corresponded with, but I think the general plan is past a 10-year, it should be done. We're now.
Well, the state encourages 5 years. This city has never done it on a regular basis like that. Most cities don't. We're at the 10-year mark. If you'd like, we could calendar this for your study session in January so that you can actually officially talk about it. We're kind of pushing the intent of public comments.
That's probably a good idea, and in conjunction with where we're at in the general plan anyways.
Mr. Chairman, I think
Yes.
the one legislative item that I would be interested in studying is actually that of pad heights, because I'm making Doug smile. Because I think that is a legitimate concern. If you're only building to 18 feet, that's allowed by ordinance. But the problem is that the pad happens at a different height than the existing pads in the neighborhood. And
It's what's happening
I don't
in
know
ours.
if Marcus is still here, but it's a bone of contention with me. I'm constantly talking about it because the actual building height ends up being the perceived building height ends up being a lot more than 18 feet because of it, and I think that is the crux of the issue, and engineering needs to decide what their standard is really going to be, because they're applying a standard that was never applied in the valley, and there's been homes in these places that have not flooded for years and years, and all of a sudden now we have a much more rigorous standard. So.
And our area has been removed from the floodplain, as I understand also. It's some time ago.
Well, what we can do, Mr. Chairman, what we'll do is put on the calendar the issue of neighborhood scale, zoning ordinances, and pad heights, and that way we can have a discussion. I believe it's January 7th, if I'm correct on the date.
Other comments? Does the commission want to discuss this item at the study session? I'm seeing lots of heads nodding up and down, so maybe we can do that. Thank you, sir, for coming in and giving us your comments.
Thank you for your time.
We'll close public comments, and we're not quite at 2 o'clock, which is the time that our public hearings begin. So let's see, we can skip over. I guess our first architectural approval item is item number 6, case 3.2414, application by Chris Finley for architectural approval for a 6,485 square foot single-family residence located at 240 Ridge Mountain Drive, PDD 155, Zone, Section 34. Do we have a staff report?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I'm going to give you a quick overview of the location, and then Gabriel will go over the details of the project. The Ridge project is a project that was approved in the 80s. It was quite controversial when it was approved, and what we are going to do is pass around a small copy of the subdivision map so that you can look at this. This house is proposed on Lot 3, which is in the middle of the subdivision. It was a very challenging approval.
And Mr. Evans, you might, just as you're going through this, just explain why it is we're looking at this single-family residence and we didn't look at the one that the gentleman talked about before.
Certainly will. The Ridge development is located off of South Palm Canyon Drive. The Canyon Hotel property is here, Murray Canyon, South Palm Canyon Drive, and the intersection for the private drive, and it's a roadway that comes up this way, roadway that comes up and around, and this is a lot that sets on the west side of a cul-de-sac, or east side of a cul-de-sac. It's a hillside development under the city's hillside ordinance. Hillside single-family homes are subject to architectural approval. The project had a series of mitigation measures before it was built, and it's been a dormant subdivision since it was built. Very few people remember it. A few people that drive in the neighborhood see it, but there are no homes up there. Mr. Finley is the first applicant. This is probably the easiest of the lots to build upon. In the subdivision approval, we defined buildable areas as part of the EIR process as a mitigation measure, where the footprint of the home is supposed to be generally within that footprint, with some flexibility to encroach out subject to Planning Commission approval. Single-family homes in hillside areas are final in the review by the Planning Commission unless appealed to the City Council. On this particular site, I walked the site with Mr. Finley before he designed the property. I was the project planner back then, and I actually walked the site with the original engineer, and we picked the pad locations before they did the subdivision map. You know, we basically hand-picked pads, and you know, this is the first one. Mr. Finley's built a couple of homes in town off of Bogart Trail, and this is his first excursion up into the hillside. And with that, Gabriel will give you an overview of the project. The house is actually the one behind the chairman.
I'm looking at this one. Spent all my time. All right, look at this one.
All right. Well, now that Doug has commented on the location and some of the background of this project, just let me give you the basics as far as where Lot 3 is. Here's Lot 3. I guess the best thing to describe about this lot is these pictures. Here's the cul-de-sac. Here's the entrance that you see here into the home. There's this big rock outpiling here, which is here and then here, and they built the home accordingly to the lands to the earth terrain. It's pretty much flat. It's flat for this hillside. You can see this is probably the best picture as how flat and where the home will be located. The home is pretty low, and it'll be in this pad section naturally, and it'll be 19 feet high, and that's the parapet. It will require an AMM because it does go above the 18 feet. Another thing here, the home does comply with our single-family code, about 35% lot coverage. They're way under that. This guest house casita that is over here is not part of the application. That was the original submittal. We have a revised casita, which is over here, which will be located closer to the home here on this area, and will be within 1/50th of lot coverage, which is part of the code and complies with code, and request approval of that. As it stands now, the casita here, which they revised, is just a little bit over 1/50th of lot coverage. Does not comply with code. If they do, we would approve that. Some of the materials went to design review. Design review loved this house. Great materials. Some of the issues that were brought up was the stone veneer here. Design review recommended that they would go with a natural stone. Applicant would like to use the veneer, and design review said that was fine, because some of the stone that they're using here will be on the inside, and the applicant wants the inside and the outside to look the same, have a nice flow. This is the front yard perspective, and you see the front elevation here. This is a real elevation. That's the perspective. That's kind of what you'll see from the cul-de-sac here. The rear elevation is what you will see from kind of from down below. If you ever see that view, probably up on the mountain looking down, you will see some of these infinity pools. There's 2 infinity pools, one large one and one little one. Here's the big infinity pool on the grading plan, and then on the little one on the grading plan also. That concludes my presentation.
Thank you, Gabriel.
If I could add, the way the pad works, because that was one of the issues discussed both at staff level and what we did in the field with the applicant as well as design review, was that the pad is pretty much a flat pad, but they have an area that, while it's not perfectly flat, it fits. And then the pool area and yard improvements then start cascading down the hillside with the walls. And the intent of this is basically to build walls up from natural and not come in and create any fill slopes, any spoil over the edge, anything that they do relative to grading like that, they're going to have to repair. So it's to their advantage to watch the grading contractors have them work inside the envelope as opposed outside in, which is a challenging grading operation, but in hillsides you have to do that. But it fits the location, it fits the lot. It's probably the easiest fit of all of the lots up there. But that completes our report. We'll certainly try to answer any questions. Mr. Finley, the applicant, is here, and I believe he wants to address the commission.
Okay. Go ahead. We have a question. And we'll get to you in a moment, sir.
Are there any lots that are above this that when somebody builds another home, they'll be looking down on this house? Where, per se, if they put air conditioning equipment or on the roof, that would be a situation we want to look at now?
I'd have to double check, and maybe you can ask the applicant about AC units on the roof. I don't recall seeing them on a roof plan, but we'll have to talk about it. Yeah, there could be one house for sure that could look down, but it's going to be a distance away. A second one maybe, but I have a feeling it's going to probably nestle in and maybe not actually be able to see the roof. We didn't actually go and look at each pad, above it, but there's only 2 pads on the uphill side of this particular site.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I have kind of 3. I'm trying to spot this thing. I see asphalt on the road there. Is this that mountain gate where there's the project that I'm thinking of, where you drive up? There's no houses yet, but it's paved. Okay. So now I'm sorted.
Yeah, you've got a gatehouse
Gotcha.
that they've remodeled
Yeah.
several times,
Yeah.
and then it goes up and splits.
Yeah. Then design review comments on the project.
Design review comments?
Yeah.
It took 2 meetings. They made the applicant work to defend the pad relationship because they felt that it's hillside and maybe should have some steps in it. The applicant brought back additional information, and there's a little cut on one side, there's a little bit of a retaining wall on the other, so they've kind of balanced it. The design review other comments had to do with a discussion about the exterior stone material and whether or not it could be a veneer, and they ended up accepting that as the material. Landscaping-wise, the preliminary landscape plan is restudied. The landscape palette that was put together in the EIR back in the mid-'80s is outdated. It did not have good hillside materials, and we've asked the applicant to come in and really do a native-type landscape plan. Very few ornamentals except in the inside of courtyard areas, nothing on the outside, and design review was very reluctant to support any palm trees up on the mountain. They felt that would not be conducive when you start looking at 12 lots and what could happen with the green scar. When this was approved, just to give you a little more context, why we're having a very careful review of landscape. Prior to this subdivision, actually, this was the second Hillside subdivision after Southridge. Southridge shut down Hillside development for 30 years. It was done poorly, it was done wrong, and the community just said, we're not going to tolerate it. The Epstein project, which is now under construction over near Andreas Hills, was the first one approved. It had been denied once before. This was the second one, and it was denied the first time. I think I remember who led the denial. And they came back and did a full EIR and donated 120 acres in fee plus another 50 acres or thereabouts in an open space easement to transfer enough density to get this number of lots. So they worked real hard. So the idea of this subdivision even back then was nestle the houses in, very tight, buildable areas, no-fill slopes, and be very careful about the landscape, even though back then the landscape was probably not the best landscape.
And then my last question, and you're moving the casita down a bit from this plan, is that correct?
Actually, the casita would move up and closer. The concern that we had with the casita plan in the first place, while for the applicant it was a nice secluded location, it was so far away from the pad, we felt it didn't meet the intent of the original approval of trying to cluster the development tightly. And, some of these lots are really big. So you could have casitas all over the mountain. And what we worked out with the applicant was to pull it closer up to that rock formation that Gabriel showed you. So it's closer and more engaged with the building, so it's not separated and down so low.
Okay, thank you.
Other comments? Ms. Conrad?
So just following along that, how do you drive to the casita? But no, it shows a garage, a carport on the casita.
Yeah, that was the original submittal.
Okay, so now you're just going to walk. Okay. And maybe I'll just ask these questions so you can address them when you speak. Why do you have parapet walls on the roof if you're not hiding air conditioning or other equipment? And it seems to me that there should definitely be a grading plan required because number 5 of the conditions of approval under grading says submit cut and fill quantities to the city engineer to determine if grading permit is required. Well, there's going to be some grading that goes on, so it seems to me there should be a grading plan. And the last thing I wanted to know is if the color palette is here, or if design review picked a color palette, because I think it should be specified now so that it blends in with the hillside.
Mr. Finley?
Okay. To start, there's a full grading plan right over here on the right. Shows all the drainage for the property. We basically come within 600 yards of balancing of what import and export. The 600 yards won't be exported. They'll end up being rock up there. The property's solid rock. We have parapet walls to drain the roof and also to hide the heating, air conditioning. We're doing a truss roof system. The drainage is going to come down through the columns in the house, so there's no scuppers. It'll come down through the columns, underground, down into the bottom of the property where our whole retention area is, and then slowly it'll be released down the mountainside. The roof material that we've selected is a tan in color, so it's not obtrusive from the properties up above. We do have one piece of roof-mounted equipment, which will be a swamp cooler, and that'll be above the bar area. There's a round turret on the back of the house. The round turret parapet is higher than all the rest of the parapets, and it's also stone on the outside of it. That'll be totally obstructed or totally hidden by the parapet. And that swamp cooler is just for the patio areas to cool the patios. The color palette is right here. It's all natural to blend into the mountainside. We've designed the house with 4-foot floating eaves to give that post and beam Palm Springs look to the house. But we've brought it more current. We've got 12-foot ceilings, 16-foot ceilings in the house, and that's why we're at the height we are. But that area is approved for 2-story houses. So we're doing a single story. There has been one contention. It's been over water features. The pools have to be infinity edges. Where it's solid rock, the pools have to be built out of the ground. And it's really not 2 pools. We're doing one large pool. It has an infinity edge going down to a lower terrace area with a smaller pool below it for a sun deck area. The other smaller round pool that you see is actually a jacuzzi off the master bedroom.
Thank you. Any more questions? Action?
Nice place.
Oh, thank you.
I want to go visit this one when it's done. With that, Mr. Chairman, I move approval of case 3.2414, subject to the conditions in the staff report.
I'll second that, Mr. Chairman.
Any further comment? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes
As long as
unanimously.
we can have a walkthrough.
Yeah.
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
This is about a year and a half.
Okay. Yeah.
It's after 2 o'clock. We'll go back to our public hearings. And we'll take up item number 3, case 5.0954, PD 242, application by Desert Chapel for a planned development district and tentative track map 28308 to create 8 single-family lots of 8,181 square feet or larger and 3 lots for professional office development under P-zone standards on assessor's parcel numbers 508, 240, 010, etc., on a 3.22 acre site at the northwest corner of Sunrise Way and Sunny Dunes. Staff report.
Alex Meyerhoff will give the staff report on this item.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. As a point of information, I wanted to call your attention to correspondence received from Ms. Sue Olson. She apologized that she would not be able to be here, but wanted you to look at 6 points in her correspondence. In addition, 3 neighbors before the meeting mentioned that they did not receive hearing notices on this item. Upon further review, one of the persons was out of the strict 400-foot mailing limit area that we use, and 2 of the other residences the notices were mailed, but to addresses out of the area, one to Seattle and one to the Bay Area. So they're going to be working with the tax assessor to ensure that in the future the mailing addresses are correct. I think you'll have a number of people that want to speak to this matter today. Briefly, we want to kind of summarize the key issues on the project, and then we'll answer any questions you may have. This is an application for a planned development district and a tentative tract map. The general plan designation of the site is both low density 4 and M15 residential. There's a zone of R1C and residential mobile home park as well. What we've done is we have used the planned development district application in lieu of a change of zone. The R2 zone would allow the professional offices to be established on the major thoroughfare. Even though the site was designed with a residential designation on their major thoroughfare, the applicant has thought about the uses and thought that that's probably not the most appropriate place for residences, even though they did have the ability to do so should they have so desired. They are proposing a modification of the R1C zone standards and the P standards, which would allow residential lots from about 8,100 square feet of a density of about 4 dwelling units to the acre, and the P zone standards that they're asking for a reduction from the required front yard setback of 25 feet. Were the project built entirely as residential, there would be the ability to do a maximum of 24 units on the site. In reviewing the project and the proposed standards, we've made a couple of recommendations which are contained in your staff report. First, we're going to recommend that on the commercial center that there is a 25-foot setback to the first parking space, which is standard for the P zone, professional office zone. And in order to achieve this, there may be a requirement to eliminate or reduce some building square footage. However, we're pretty confident that given the site design and characteristics, they can reconfigure the parking and building layout, and they may not have to reduce any square footage. So essentially what we're saying here is that the project should be designed to meet parking compliance for the office portion of the project. In addition, we have put the standard conditions in for masonry walls, constructed between parking lot and the single-family residences, as well as from the office and residential components to the mobile home parks. We have suggested that the time of construction of this wall be concurrent with the time of construction of the improvements of the subdivision. Engineering is also requesting that a number of conditions be added, including a raised landscape median on Sunrise Way and construction of the extension of the Bristow Channel box, which is essentially a drainage at the Bristow Channel just to the north of the project site. The project is exempt from environmental review under state law. However, previously a traffic study was prepared. This project is anticipated to create an average of 661 trips to the site. And in earlier work done as a joint environmental document between the master plan of the Desert Chapel campus area and this site, there was a recommendation for a traffic signal, which has since been installed. You're all aware of that at the intersection of Sunny Dunes and Sunrise Way. That would have been something that we would have conditioned on this project, however, it had been installed previous to this public hearing. If it pleases the commission, I'll approach the board, kind of walk through the surrounding uses and answer any questions you may have.
Thank you.
Huh?
I couldn't figure out where this
The project site is Sunny Dunes Road, Sunrise Way, and some street frontage on Calle Migos. The existing uses surrounding the project include the mobile home park and commercial center to the north, the church and campus to the east, the single-family residential neighborhood that exists to the south, and vacant land here to the west. In terms of the uses proposed for the site, the subdivision would include, I'm trying not to put my back to you, the residential lots here, 1 through 8, and 3 commercial lots, 9, 10, and 11. In envisioning this project, it was determined by the applicant that we didn't really want to put any additional residential uses on Sunrise Way, although they had the ability to do so. Just not the best place to put residential uses, even though they could have gone to a higher density and multifamily type. So we see from the planned development district, there would be, it's anticipated that there would be 3 buildings, a medical office, and a regular office building, although those uses are flexible and may change to office or medical office or some combination thereof. Because we don't have specific users for those, we wanted to have and retain some flexibility in parking while also requiring them that they adhere to the parking standards contained outright in the zoning code. Again, these would be single-family residences, setbacks of 15 feet in the rear, 25 in the front, proposed 8-foot side yard setbacks, which would be a modification of the R1C zone, but standard based on zoning provision requirements that state that a side yard setback is proportional to the width of the lot if less than 100 feet in area. The access points for the professional office complex would be in this location on Sunny Dunes and in this location on Sunrise. Just 2 access points. We've tried to pull them far enough away from the intersection so there would be no vehicular conflict. And then again, we have the condition regarding the block walls in this area as well as here. And that the idea there is to provide for some privacy and security of the mobile home park and proposed residential uses, as well as the ability to differentiate and keep them separate from the office uses here. We'd be happy to answer any questions you may have. Again, this is a preliminary plan residential development and a tentative tract map. Plans will come back to you at the final PD stage when we have construction level documents.
Questions before we open a public hearing? Yes, Ms. Morantz.
Alex, can you show me again the access points for the homes?
Certainly. The homes would have individual driveways on Sunny Dunes. much like the existing R1C residences to the south.
Alex, is there going to be enough driveway depth there and so on? Because that's a busy street, and I think we need to be careful there that those driveways are designed properly so people can get in and out without creating a hazard.
That's understandable, and according to our zoning ordinance, a 25-foot is required. If the Planning Commission was concerned about that, you could require a turnaround, but in this location, it is not required to have a turnaround area or a three-point turn driveway, kind of the T driveways that you see in some of the places on different designations on the major thoroughfares, such as Sunrise in the north or in the residences on Vistachino, where that would be a code requirement.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Alex, how do those lot sizes, are those lot sizes substandard compared with the lot sizes across the street?
They are. They range about 80, 100 to about 9,000 square feet. In the report, we noted that the lots to the south are over 10,000 square feet in area.
And have you done a study of where the driveways,
We
they
do not
match
have
up?
that information yet because we don't have the residential program for development here.
Other questions? If not, we'll open the public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak on this item, please come forward. Give us your name and address, please. Confine your comments to 3 minutes, please, and then please sign the clipboard before you go.
Good afternoon, commissioners and staff.
Do you have your mic on there?
Yes, it is.
Okay, you have to get like about 8 inches away.
I usually sit over there.
Yeah.
My name is James Hayton, and I live actually near Robert that addressed you earlier in that neighborhood on San Lucas, and the street's right next to me, of course. And I wanted to chime in with your comment. I'm also someone that didn't receive notification, and last time that I did receive notification, I did receive my notification on the project, and I was about the very same issue I have today that didn't seem to get addressed with the latest revisions that were made with the project. I want to thank you up front for your scrutiny because our neighborhoods do look wonderful and everything that's coming in around us looks great, and it's a very high quality, and you're maintaining the scale, which is the issue that I have with this particular project. The scale is so important, and I come from an area that they ruined called Corona del Mar, where they allowed speculators to come in and build these mini mansions next to one another, which alienated everybody from each other. Our neighborhood is very front porch friendly, and what I'm seeing starting to happen is people are coming in with their speculative ventures in order to create this mansionization for some kind of a resale, and I don't blame them. I might do the same thing in someone else's area, but this is a neighborhood, and it's already creating some divisiveness that doesn't fit the Palm Springs village atmosphere that we all moved here for. Specifically, I know the church wants to be a good neighbor, and I know even though it's kind of odd that they are the speculators in this case, I think it's really important that they realize that the scale is very important. Now, the neighborhood does deal with quite a bit with the church, with the school, and with the lights and the noise, but I think that's a given. You know, we want to be neighbors, and you have to put up with a certain amount of behavioral issues with neighbors, of course. I think there has to be a little more scrutiny paid to the lot sizes here. What I was looking at, the same issue I had before, is by simply removing one of these houses from this component, instead of having the 8 and going to 7, I think it'd enable you to have that horseshoe drive that would enable people to get in and out of their driveway safely. That is a very highly impacted corner. I walk my dog every morning through the dirt lot where the commercial component is proposed, and it's extremely dangerous crossing the street. Even with the signal, people don't pay attention making turns there. They're going very fast. They're coming from bars up the street. They're coming from the hardware store. We've got a lot of traffic impact at that particular corner. So having horseshoe drives like we have like I have, use a horseshoe drive on San Lucas enables you to, of course, pull in and be able to leave and have good visibility rather than trying to back out. And I don't want to see any of our neighbors get slammed on the street. So if you could look at perhaps reducing by 1,
which shouldn't hurt their speculative venture because they can simply increase the price because a larger lot's going to have more value to someone. Plus, it allows that buyer in the future to enlarge their house. It gives them something that we have, which is the ability to spread without having to go up, without having to ruin neighbors' views. Now, I built a garage on my property next door in the next street over on San Lucas over the summer. I kept my garage low. I mean, I kept the garage in keeping with the house to maintain that friendly ranch single-level scale we have. And I think that's very important. I would never have considered building something that would change the scale of my neighborhood. And I know the church, when they see how important that is to others, many who can't be here today because of having to work. There's just a lot of people that that couldn't be here that I spoke to that have jobs, you know, that they can't be here. So I think this needs to be attended to, and I thank you very much for your attention. If I can answer any questions, I'd be happy to.
Thank you.
Sure.
I was going nuts. I was sitting there. I didn't think about it across the street.
I don't know if I'm allowed to do this or not, but it would be easier if I could stand up there and look at the diagram and point to it. Can I do that?
Give us your name and address, please, if you would.
All right, my name is Richard Lilly. I live at 1255 Sunny Dunes Road, Palm Springs.
Okay.
There you go.
We'll give you the portable hand mic and
I'm one of the people that found out that we weren't entitled to get the notification on this. We found out about this quite by accident. Previously, when the Desert Chapel was starting to do their things a few years ago, we were notified. So why we're in and then we're not, I'm not quite sure. If I can just address it this way. I moved here 9 years ago from Chicago. And, you know, we found out, like many of you did, that warmth is better than cold. So, you know, here we are. One of the problems is that over roughly the past 6 to 7 years, our neighborhood has been fighting the traffic problem on Sunny Dunes Road. And we finally, about a year and a half ago, the city worked with us, and we worked out an arrangement whereby they made some changes on the street. We added a couple of stop signs, and they also changed the lanes on the road so that the whole south side of Sunny Dunes, from here right down to the business district, right, has the parking lane on the south side. We still have some problems with that because they only put one lane, even though they identified it as being, you know, the parking area and the bike area. People still think it's a dual lane highway. So periodically, everybody on the south side, we all have, when we back out of our driveways, we have to back out into Sunny Dunes. So at least the one change that they made has made it easier for us in backing out. But I still get very close because I'm right there at Thornhill in Sunny Dunes, that we can get clobbered pretty easily, and it's come awfully close many times. On the north side, what they did is that has been turned into the very small bike lane, you know, when they moved the entire structure. Now, so the problem is that, first of all, when you go down to, you know, with the change of the stop signs, traffic slowed down, and things were great for a while. Down here, they put in the stoplights. Since they put in the stoplights, it makes the turn onto Sunny Dunes much easier than it was before. All of a sudden, the speed of our traffic and the volume of our traffic has greatly increased. So our concern in looking at this and looking at the diagram, the church wants to come in and put in smaller size lots. So in essence, what they're doing on the north side is the same thing that was done with Dunes Court. Dunes Court came in, got a variance, and what you've got are 0 lot lines, and they packed the house. Now, sorry, I'm not an architect, so I'm just describing what's happened to us. Increase the volume. They want to do the same thing. If you make these things smaller, I can tell you there's not room for horseshoe-shaped driveways. All right, a T possibly, but that would take up most of whatever their front yard is. Plus, you would have the people backing out, you know, from the north, the people backing out from the south, in an area where the speed of the traffic is still a significant problem. Then if you come down here with what you're talking about, where they want to take it and move it around to the side, our question is, number one, this is, if we're zoned for private single-family housing here, and if this is what's zoned here, it seems logical to me that somehow, some way, when they make this turn, that you're going to have to change the zoning in this part, which suddenly changes it from being residential to being commercial. Now, if it does that, then the question is, does that set the precedent for some other developer to come in, go to the south side of our street? What we see is our neighborhood is being changed from a residential area into a commercial area. And why is that happening? Why to us? Why, not somebody else? But the problem that really exists, when you were describing the project, you said that they're going to put that divider strip, up here for people to turn. As soon as you do that, that means that most of the traffic, in order to get into this area, is going to have to come south from Ramon. So if they come from south to Ramon and they turn in here, because there's only one way to get in, there's also only one way to get out. So if they come in and go out this way, they're going to have to turn south, right? If they, on this side, what it does with this stoplight, while this looks like a lot of distance, you can't put two cars between the end of the stoplight and where this entrance would have to be. Because right here, what happens is that this part right here is the entrance to the sewer on both the north and south side of the street, all right? We already get flooded on the street, when it rains, right? And these are the only two places where the water goes away. So they've got to move this way to get out of that parking lot further down here. That's why they want to make the houses smaller. Where's this traffic going to go? Two people would turn from here going to this stoplight. You're already going to have this car backing the lane that would be heading west. All right, so it's a very practical problem that we have to live with every day. So if they do that, if they can't turn out there, then where's the traffic going to go? The traffic is going to come back toward Palm Canyon, which we were already getting inundated with the traffic there, which means that they're going to turn and use this Calle Amigo, which is a very small street, which is not designed for heavy traffic. That's going to be the escape going to Ramon Road. So it's not that we're against the church doing something with the property, but it seems to me that they're trying to pack the house again. They're trying to do way too much in a very small space, and that's our primary concern. Now, when they talked to us about this a few years ago, it wasn't anything on this grand scale. And I understand the issue here about having residential property on Sunrise. I wouldn't want to live in a house on Sunrise. I don't think anybody else would. Apartments, that would be another issue. But what they're doing in this one area between here and here, we've already asked to have additional stop signs put in, or speed bumps, or something. We're still starting to get the problem again because of that stoplight with the 18-wheeler traffic coming down the street.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else wishing to speak on this item? And again, if you would, please try to confine your comments to 3 minutes. Give us your name and address and sign the clipboard before you go.
My name is Sherry Sale, and I live at 1653 East Sunny Dunes, which is directly across from what I propose to be the exit from the parking lot structure that would, I live directly across from there, and it looks like it will be pulling right into my driveway. So that's my concern. First of all, is the traffic that's going to be happening on Sunny Dunes Road. The exiting there, the amount of traffic and lights or headlights that would be coming into my home as the traffic exits from that area. Again, the traffic has increased with the stoplight. The backup and overflow during parades and so forth is such that I cannot get out of my driveway, even though I do have a U-shaped driveway to get out. So again, it's the traffic problem that is of concern. And the lot sizes of the homes across the street. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Good afternoon. My name is Peter Intrabertolo, and I live at 1425 East Sunny Dunes Road, directly opposite the property of Calle Amigo. There is no vacant property, by the way, west of that. That is Dunes Court now. It's been there for a couple of years. So we have noticed a very big increase in traffic on the street. We've lived there for 5 years now. we've noticed an increase as a result of that traffic signal going in, and as Rick said, we've been working with the city and with city council persons to try and calm the traffic on the street by putting in stop signs, bike lanes, so forth, and changing the lane structure. I didn't realize that the property is all zoned for residential and that the request is for changing some of it to commercial. That's a surprise. And the fact that the designation of the ports on Sunrise and on Sunny Dunes would indicate to me that 661 trips daily would more than likely come, especially if it's a medical building, would come out onto Sunny Dunes and increase our traffic flow. So that is the main concern that I'm worried about, that and the change of the property, since our lots are 10,000 square feet on the south side of the street. And sorry, I've never spoken before. I'm really nervous. And as Sherry also mentioned, the traffic coming out, the lights, and also the precedent set of changing property, since we've all moved here and we've been working to renovate the homes and bring them back, the 50s homes, and bring them back in style. So this would be just a possibility of people coming in and taking property away and making it more commercial. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else? Mr. Mills, you want to come forward, or do we have one more? Okay, fine. I know Mr. Mills would like to speak last, so that, because he's making his notes over there, but yes, sir.
In case you don't recognize me, Robert Hazuka once again, same neighborhood. Basically, I want to echo the issue of the lot sizes. In harmony with what I spoke about a bit earlier, and that's the scale of the neighborhood. Most of them being, I'd say, 100 by 100 feet, and the almost three-quartering of this just once again is another step in taking the neighborhood a bit out of scale. So I thought, and this is the time to be addressing that issue rather than after the fact, like I have to with the issue on our street there. Also, I'm not quite clear in looking at that, and I had wondered about north of that on Sunrise, I don't know if you're familiar with it, but the sidewalk approaching that is like a meandering sidewalk. It is also echoed on the other side of Sunrise from actually past Ramon and continuing on down. It's a meandering sidewalk. I'm hard-pressed to see if there's even a sidewalk there, and if there is, what kind of sidewalk it is. It would be nice to see if there's any way to accommodate in the plan to continue that theme of that meandering sidewalk that exists north and across the street from that for some distance.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Planning Commission. My name is Chris Mills, 1255 East Ramon Road, the architect for this project. First, I'd just like to mention that this is virtually the same project that was submitted 3 or so years ago. There have been no changes except the recommendation was made by the Planning Commission at that time, which was from 8 single-family, from 10 single-family down to 8, which is what it is now. But from a use standpoint, from a driveway standpoint, from everything, it is exactly as it was at that time. At that time, I think the lots were around 6,500, 6,800, which during that time was more what the trend was. I can't speak for the owner, but I can say that I doubt very seriously if there's a problem going to a 10,000 square foot lot if that's an obstacle. I don't see that being a problem. It was more of what the market was, and market really still is, as you know, with the lots you've been approving out at Mountain Gate and several other projects. But so I don't think that is an issue, and if that's what you would like to do, then please just make that modification accordingly. the way the driveways work, whether it's a horseshoe or not, I mean, based on traffic studies and information that I've seen in the past, the traffic on this does not warrant that type of a driveway. What it will do, as you all know, is if you use a horseshoe type driveway, a lot more paving in the front yard, a lot less landscaping in the front yard. So just be aware of what that outcome is. As far as traffic calming in the neighborhood, I know that the owner, the church in this case, will have no problem in any participation that they would need from a traffic calming standpoint. So I think basically, I think what we've done here is really done what the city has encouraged to happen throughout the city on these on multifamily areas, density, and I'm talking about on the Sunrise area, all up and down Sunrise, all up and down Ramon, up and down Vistachino, where the multifamily areas is to encourage not a commercial use, but a professional use. And I think that we also, in this case, are able to just have one entry on Sunrise and the other entry to come out on Sunny Dunes near the corner. And according to the information I see from engineering, there didn't seem to be a problem with the stacking distance, the arrangement that it was set up, that it's set up there. So what we're trying to do is really follow what the tune has been sent all along these major thoroughfares, and that we don't really want multifamily, which is a much more traffic generating use than office buildings from a traffic study standpoint. So I think, and hence why we went to the P zone type essential, although it's not really a zone change. I had a couple of questions regarding the conditions, and probably the biggest one is the requirement of the increase in the box channel on this side of the street, that this property owner is being subjected to the entire cost when there is an adjacent property owner, and and why it needs to be done at this time when there's no plans for widening Sunny Dunes, and I think widening Sunrise. And at a minimum, I would at least like that condition to be listed as a covenant, if nothing else. But I personally don't see the reason, if there are no plans to widen Sunrise, why we would be widening the box culvert at this time anyway, especially since you can't really, it's not going to do you any good if you don't widen it on the other side also. So I would like to have that listed as a covenant. I don't remember, that's number 50, Alex just pointed for me.
Page 750.
And a couple other notes which I would like to mention that are, really aren't either here nor there as far as the project's concerned, but more of a standard for what I think we should be looking for. And that's, if you look at number 41, which has to do with curbs minimum 5 feet from walls, fences, and buildings, ordinarily that's great. And I don't have a problem on this site doing this, but when you have a property line condition and you've got a driveway against it, or the type of footing you have to have is going to dictate that you won't be able to have any trees. And so I would say that that 2 foot mark you should leave as, you should keep the 5 foot in front of a drive along the side of a wall. And like I said, it's not hurting us, but it's a standard condition that I think the Planning Commission may want to look at, making sure we always have a 5 foot planter that we can at least get some landscaping in. The other thing is on 55 regarding the median island, and I realize these are standard conditions. It mentions that the 4-foot wide, the tongue, if you want to call it, on the median island would be done in cobblestone paving. I think that's a mistake. I think that should be done in landscaping. It was done in landscaping in front of the drive-through Starbucks up on Palm Canyon, and it looks fine, it works fine, it doesn't obstruct views, and it looks a heck of a lot better than rock, as we have at currently at Sunrise and Ramon with that project there. It's unfortunate that that is done in the cobblestone. So if you wouldn't mind modifying those, we wouldn't really have a problem with either one of those, but like I say, it doesn't really make us or break us. And then in the engineering conditions on all the street conditions, I tried to call engineering today, and we just didn't hook up. They don't really, the condition, and I'll just use 61 as an example. It says, by minimum, and I'm down on the second line at the end, subgrade 24 inches at 95% relative compaction or equal from edge of proposed gutter to clean saw cut of pavement along the entire frontage. Well, my question is, are you talking at the center line of the street, or are they talking about the edge of where the curb's being moved back from, or being installed in this case? It doesn't really tell me. So I'm questioning what was the intent there. If you're talking about from the center line of the street, then I have a problem. If you're talking about from the edge of the current paving, then then I'm okay. So, which I think you are, but it
well,
just,
we have
it
Marcus
doesn't say
here.
that.
He can answer.
Pardon me? No wonder I couldn't get a hold of him.
Marcus, Marcus, we'll wait till we close the public hearing. So,
but that was all the comments, and Marvin Roos from Monero Smith is here, and both of us can answer questions if you would like.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Might as well log in. Marvin Roos with Monero Smith and Associates are the engineers on the project. I think one of the issues you get into with this property is, whenever you get into the last pieces, trying to fit the puzzle together, you always end up with a lot of nuances. I want to congratulate the people along Sunny Dunes who have really done a marvelous job with those houses. As former planning director, we were always hoping that kind of gentrification would happen, and it's obviously happening big time. Again, Chris has mentioned the issue of lot sizes and the like. I think that if you look at particularly at the professional along Ramon, or on Sunrise rather, part of the issue that we got into when we first allowed the offices along the major thoroughfares was trying to limit the curb cuts. Whenever you had a series of small lots, you had a lot of different curb cuts. And by going to the professional, you can aggregate that into a single area. I think if you look at the distance on Sunny Dunes to the driveway, I think we're probably close to 200 feet. And not that you're going to bumper-to-bumper cars, but that's quite a few cars before you actually have to make that decision about making your turn and the like. So again, now we'll have a fairly smooth completion along Sunrise. If this was this could be applied for under conditional use permit in many cases, and that's how it's happened in a lot of those locations around the city. I think if you go back historically, Ramon Trailer Park was originally anticipating expanding onto these sites, and I think actually they had they had the driveway along the property line so they could double load the trailers off to the side, and obviously over a period of time that didn't happen. So I think this will be a good addition to the neighborhood, clean it up, or clean up this site and complete it, and we can move forward. And again, we're here to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Roos. Yes, sir. Well, we've had, anybody else wishing to speak? I think we're going to try and get this public hearing closed and get on with our discussion.
Are we not allowed to raise another question?
Well, we've had, everybody gets their 3 minutes, and you had about 5, so you can ask if you're smart, talk to the person next to you, come up and ask a question.
Wait.
We'll close the public hearing, and we'll try and get this gentleman's question answered. Mr. Evans is going to talk to him. And questions?
Yeah, I've got a couple of questions and comments. Alex, in the beginning of your report, you said currently as it sits today, as mobile home obviously, zone primarily, there's 22 units that they'd be eligible for, is it?
With the combination of the L4 and the M15, if the entire site was developed, I believe it was 24 units.
24 units, okay. I thought I heard.
Yes, 24, an additional 24 units if the entire site was developed as residential.
Okay. And Mr. Roos hit on a little bit, as we get to infill development here, you get, you're kind of squeezing the last pieces of the puzzle in and what's to do right. And I go to the Starbucks there and then used to drive up Sunny Dunes, and I'm really happy the stoplight's there, because you could wait a long time to make a left turn or do a really unsafe one, which I witnessed on occasion. And I'm not sure, I don't think that, I don't know, and you engineers may know, I don't know if the traffic light drives the traffic or the development drives the traffic light, and it may be some mixture in there, but with the additional in Dunes Court, the commercial additions down there, I voted against the Jack in the Box, but it went in anyways, and that drives a little traffic. But I don't know what traffic calming measures you or engineering would want to put on that road. It's kind of an important collector street, I would guess. What's the designation on it?
I can if you want. And to date, what we've done is we surveyed the neighborhood. Forget my voice. And we shifted the lane lines and narrowed them down. That's one traffic calming measure. Everybody jumps to have stop signs installed, but our city engineer, who's a traffic engineer, is very cautious of that, because you have to have warrants met when you put stop signs in, or else they'll be run, and then you have accidents. So we believe we have 2 new stop signs that met warrants. Those 2 items, we hope, have caused traffic to look for more easier ways to get around town. The traffic signal has been warranted for years and years and years. That's going to make more people use that if it's convenient for them.
So it does drive a little bit of an
increase. It does
increase.
drive it a little bit.
Okay.
I think it's more localized. But like you said, Sunny Dunes is a collector, so it's serving an important function of funneling traffic from Palm Canyon to Sunrise Way.
Okay. The other, I was sort of intrigued by the horseshoe driveway concept, but on a smaller lot, there's a couple of horseshoe driveways on Laverne, but those are bigger lots, and frankly, I don't think they look very good. You have too much concrete. I mean, you want people to be able to get in and out, but I think if you did horseshoe lots, you'd be less happy. As I look at this map, and if I were God or king, I would access from the driveway in the back from the trailer park, but that probably doesn't work because it's not your land. Because it'd be a great alleyway to get into a driveway back there had we planned this 30 years ago that way. But 30 years ago we thought the mobile park was going to expand out there, and I don't know if there's anything that can be done there. And the applicant sounds like they're willing to go to 7 lots from 8, but it looks like the intensity's dropping. I mean, it could be a lot worse. I mean, am I right or am I wrong?
He said they were 10.
Well, they proposed a project with 10, and today we're talking about, the proposed number of 8, and the applicant has indicated they'll drop 1, which means the lots will be very close to standards all the way across. The corner might be a little bit narrow. When the engineers lay it out, what they'll do is they'll average the additional square footage or linear footage that you get. There's a couple of things. The traffic network of Palm Springs, and we did a neighborhood meeting yesterday last evening with the Biltmore Hotel property. And, one of the things that this town was laid out with, back in its original circulation plan, was a grid system of roadways with, obviously majors and secondaries and collectors and then locals. And the idea of that plan was, as this city builds up, people will shift from different roadways. When we had no traffic signals in town, everybody used the majors to go everywhere. Now that we have traffic on those roadways in real intersections with traffic signals, people are now, particularly locals, they use the networks to move about the community. That's the way this town was planned starting back in the 1930s. The first formal master plan we had in '59, adopted in '66, laid that out. And what we're finding right now is now that people have started to shift and divert their trips, whether it's because of growth in the neighborhood or a traffic signal, or they just are tired of using Ramon Road, they shift around. And also we find as neighborhoods improve aesthetically, people start driving a little bit differently because they like the neighborhood to drive through. And this neighborhood, as you've heard in some of the testimony, these properties are really upgrading, and it has a better feel than it did 10 years ago. So what we're experiencing is kind of that shift of traffic, and we're going to be doing that for a long time. The traffic calming program that the city engineer and his staff put together is going to be a living document, and we're going to look at it. Let's talk about this project a little bit on trips. Clearly the professional office and on a major thoroughfare, whether it's medium density residential property or single family property, if it fronts on a major thoroughfare, this city allows and has encouraged professional offices as a transitional land use. Why? Typically, in this particular case, it's going to be small offices, which means it's probably going to be professionals. It may or may not have a lot of medical because of the parking requirements. And typically, you have a morning peak of traffic, a PM peak of traffic, and the best news for a lot of people is on Saturday and Sunday, there is no traffic. For years, I lived across the street from a church. People always used to ask me, well, God, don't you hate it? Well, it bothers me about 20 minutes.
On Sunday morning.
Twice a day on Sundays, and I just wave a lot.
That's it.
And the rest of the time, I have a very quiet parking lot. So at night, it's quiet. It's not like an apartment complex where you might have people coming day and night. Soon after 5 p.m., except for those midnight owls, the parking lot's going to be empty. It's going to be quiet. And it's usually a pretty good neighbor. We don't have a lot of conflict where we built professional offices in our community next to residential. Certainly the driveway moves down, comes 2 lots down, to the west of Sunrise. And it's a parking lot. But again, you have to kind of balance it as to what would the traffic be if it were built by right of zone and you had 2-story apartments in there. And we talked to the Biltmore neighborhood about this also. It's a trade-off. What's the trade-off? I know the neighbors are concerned of traffic. The gentleman at the back was concerned that maybe the commission wasn't going to be focused on the fact that the traffic issue is one of great concern, so I relayed that to you. We can go through the individual questions that you have and then the conditions of approval. And we'll have to help you with at least 2 additional conditions of approval and maybe modify a couple. If the commission's pleasure, we could start working through those.
Doug, question for you. And you answered most everything I was going to ask you. If those 3 professional office lots became apartments, what's the maximum density? How many residents? Because you absolutely addressed it where you're going to have 24-hour traffic. I live across from a large medical center. They're great neighbors because there's nobody there when I'm home. So along the same lines, if these became apartments, what's your maximum density for those 3 professional lots as an apartment?
Well, it could go up to 15 units per acre. I forget the...
For the entire site.
24 total units?
For the entire site.
For the entire site, 24 total units.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman?
Diane was...
I had Doug, Mr. Mills made a comment regarding instead of using the cobblestone, just to go with pavers. Is there that?
No, just go with
Landscape.
With landscaping and not the cobblestone paving. Is that something that can be?
Well, you know, from a planner's perspective, it will be much more attractive and softer, and over time, the road grime won't turn the rocks gray and dirty looking. From an engineering perspective, they prefer to have a stable, you know, product, either the cobbles or just plain concrete. So it's easy to keep reasonably clean. I think aesthetically, what you'll find if it's concrete or boulders, over time, the road grime will make it look grimy. Just take a look at any one. They look, you know, I think the cobbles look great the first 6 months, and then they start failing. Can it be done? Yes. Can you get the landscape in? Yes. Can you put in small plants? Yes. It can be done, and then it's an increased maintenance cost for the city, you know, month in, month out. But if you ever have to replace the cobbles or the concrete, that's a capital expense versus a routine maintenance expense.
And
So
what
you
about-
could change that.
And it may also be, I'm guessing, because this has been a standard condition for years, an issue of safety for maintaining whatever's in that median nose, especially if it's a long left turn island. It's hard to get in there and maintain it with people. So that's probably the reason why it's always been some sort of permanent.
Because I know it's pretty difficult just at South Palm Canyon and Sunny Dunes for anybody to be in there maintaining. It's a little difficult. Also, item number 50 with the box culvert.
The reason for this is, and unfortunately I didn't get to speak with Chris before the meeting, there is a street widening required on Sunrise. The curb's currently at 32 feet, and so the general plan requires 38 feet.
38?
So it's a 6-foot widening along their frontage on Sunrise.
Do you defer by covenant?
We don't normally defer to covenant on track maps. In between this development and the commercial development at Ramon,
That's where it
there's
is.
the driveway to the mobile home park and the box culvert. That's why the city engineer recommends that these off-site improvements be constructed, because the Sunrise will be widened unless different recommendations made. And the box culvert and the short length of the mobile home park frontage, which is just their driveway, is going to stick out. And so that's the reason for the recommendation, because the city does not have it budgeted in its drainage fee program to have that box culvert widened, because there hasn't been the need for it. And this development is causing the need for it.
Okay.
I can answer Chris's question regarding 61. I could clarify that, but that paving requirement is only for the paving that's required in front of the curb relocation on Sunny Dunes, not along the entire frontage. And it is only from clean saw cut edge, not from center line. And I would add also that the city last year did improve Sunny Dunes, had budgeted for improvements, and that the cost of that was in excess of $60,000. And that was improvements that widened the curb, put new curb and gutter in, because before what was there was just an AC berm, and it was just a continuous erosion of pavement and a maintenance nightmare. So not knowing the timeline of this project, the city went ahead and budgeted that improvement, and that would have been improvements that would have been required with this tract had we not constructed them.
Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Maybe, I'm not sure who should answer this question. Maybe Mr. Mills is the perfect person. And when I first read this, it seemed like we should just drop a lot, and then the lot sizes would be bigger, and you could do a study about where you place the driveways, and it would work out okay. And as I started to think about it more, I wondered why there is any exit at all on Sunny Dunes. And I'm sure, or it seemed to me that it was because of the parking requirement, but I don't understand why the development of the corner couldn't be such that the building mass is on the corner or backed up down what would logically have been the first residential lot on Sunny Dunes, and let all of the parking stay on Sunrise and have either one or two accesses on Sunrise, and have no communication with this parking lot to Sunny Dunes. It doesn't make sense to me, even though so Chris, maybe you want to tell me, but maybe it's because you want the buffer of the parking lot between your professional building and the first residential house, but it seems to me that they would be better served by the back of of a professional office building than this huge parking lot and a driveway, and it seems like the driveway could be consolidated onto Sunrise, and if you're going to argue that you can't have two, then maybe you could just have one big one with an in and out, and it could be far away from the corner. So I mean, could you walk us through, and I invite you to explain to us lowly non-architects how this plan came about instead of developing the corner as an office building? And then you wouldn't even have to lose a lot. You could have 8 lots, and they could be standard sizes.
Well,
And you call me an amateur traffic engineer.
I said I was a lowly non-architect.
well, as a lonely architect and not an ER doctor, I guess.
I'm a lowly non-architect.
Yes.
Yeah. I'm sure Marcus or Doug could really answer this just as easy as I can. It's just if you were forced to have one driveway on Sunrise, not only would it'd be much more intense, you'd be pushing people out, making left turns, right turns, making turns on a busy street with a high traffic volume, versus bringing them out and forcing them to go to a traffic signal, which is a much safer turn for everyone. And I think that's the basic logic. That's the logic I know that's been used all over town. And there are several properties along Ramon corridor, which is very similar to this, where that is what has been done. And you can imagine what it'd be like trying to pull out or trying to make a left turn on Ramon. It's bad enough where you have a stop sign, but at least we have a signal in this condition, and it's a much safer turn for everyone involved. And I don't really know, Marcus, I couldn't tell by the conditions or not, if that driveway in would even have a median break. But
It wouldn't.
Which means the mobile home park would not either.
No.
So what they're saying is right turn in, right turn out, which is the safest turn that you're going to get. So that's really what I would assume to be.
Okay, but so you're saying right turn in, and you have a choice of right or left out because you're going to go out left on Sunny Dunes and go to the signal. But if you had right turn in and right turn out onto Sunrise, you think that's going to be so much more intense?
Well, then you're forcing traffic southbound, and then what they'll have to do is make a U-turn at the signal if they want to go northbound. I just calculated, basically the driveway that's proposed is 255 feet from the center line of Sunrise, so when you subtract out road widths and everything, you can get about 8 cars between the driveway and the crosswalk, which is more than I think we'll ever see in the AM or PM peak hour.
How far, and I'm just trying to understand the perspective, go to the other end of Sunrise where Starbucks is, from their driveway on Sunny Dunes to South Palm Canyon Drive? How far is that?
It's shorter than that.
Shorter?
Yeah.
Okay.
But I still don't,
it's
you're going to
really
have a
wide
median
there.
island, and you're going to preclude left-hand turns into this from northbound on Sunrise, and you're going to preclude left-hand turns into the mobile home park from Sunrise. So why can't you force people southbound when they come out of this structure? And then they could turn right at Sunny Dunes if they wanted to. Or they could maybe make it to the left-hand turn line and make a U-turn.
You can.
Where's the median?
Why is it not preferable, I guess?
I'm lost.
We think that the circulation plan makes it beneficial for the people visiting the site, so they have better options of getting back to where they came from.
But forcing the driveway access to be on Sunrise makes it better for the neighborhood.
That's correct.
And I don't know that it makes it better. It makes it better in a sense, perhaps, but the actual, if you take you could take the use that is approved use on there from a density standpoint, and you would have much more intense use of Sunny Dunes by a right-of-zone project than you're looking at here. If it's a matter of getting that driveway to where the headlights aren't going in somebody's windows, we can accommodate that. There's room to work there, and we can speak to Sherry about that. And we can resolve issues like that. But I think it's we don't. I think it's the safe thing to do. I think it's the smart thing to do, and that's why I think the city's done it in the past. That street is certainly designed as a collector to handle that traffic load. It's the reason that the signal's there in the first place, and I think from a safety feature, it's really hard to justify. Even, Tracy, going out right and then making a quick left, you're going across 2 lanes of traffic, and it's still not
And
a safe.
I'm just trying to be convinced. And you and I have gone down this road before, where I fall silent in the face of right of zone, and what, the horror that could be, and that this is much improved, but it doesn't mean that you don't want to. I want to be convinced that this is the best possible solution, and for both, for the compromise for the neighborhood and for traffic flow. And so you, in your wisdom and study of the project, have decided that you think that the safety issue is more important than the aesthetics or your development standard. I'm sure you'd rather have the hard corner for your building.
And if it were a condition where that were a street that was not designed to handle that traffic load, then I don't think, we wouldn't have brought it out there. If there was not a signal there, then perhaps the argument not to bring it out there makes a lot more sense, and that's.
Marcus, one last question for me. What about the sidewalk? Sidewalks in there?
I looked at the street
Don't go
plan
there,
for the
Chris.
commercial center up by Ramon, and it's an 8-foot sidewalk adjacent to curb.
Okay, good.
What I'm recommending is a 12-foot combination sidewalk bike path adjacent to curb.
Okay.
And that's only because our general plan shows the bike path is supposed to be on the west side of Sunrise, although we all know that it's on the other side of the street, at least in front of the church. So that's just being consistent with the general plan.
Does the applicant know that? Okay.
Doesn't.
Okay.
One more, I
All
just
right,
have
one more, Ms.
question.
Morantz.
Marcus, maybe because I wasn't listening, the median that's going in is going to go all the way to Ramon?
No, it's only going to go across their frontage. So it would stop basically where the mobile home park driveway is. So we'd have to work out the details on this, because we need to make, we had to do this when we were in construction with the median that was constructed for Ralph's.
Okay.
Same mobile home park has a driveway on Ramon.
Yes.
So we have to work with, those are, fine details that we work out during design and construction.
So when that other shopping center was developed, there was no median program at that. Thank you, Alex.
Either it was never recommended, or it was recommended and waived. I don't know the specifics.
Okay.
Anything else, Mr. Evans?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, if we could just go through the recommendations, and so we have notes correct, and we've got a couple of suggestions as we go through. One of the items that we're going to do is the planning file on the shopping center was archived off-site. We've required it to come back. There was a debate about that box culvert in that project review, and we just want to double check and make sure there's not a joint funding condition that we have to pick up. So if the commission's pleasure is to move this up to council, between commission and council, we'll take a look at that for the applicant. I just want to make sure it's not buried in a file that's about 6 miles away from City Hall right now, unless it came back today. From the standpoint of the recommendations, I'd like to call your attention to a few. The first one is 29 under planning. There's a provision in the R2 zone relative to signage and professional office buildings allowed by CUP. It only allows a complex identification sign. so that when you're next to the residential neighborhood, you don't have individual office signs all over the building. My suggestion is that in number 29, that you add that as a sentence right out of the code, that the only sign, or the only allowable sign shall be an identification sign for the building, and then again, public convenience signage for people to know where the driveways and the exits are. And that way we won't end up with a commercial sign facing somebody's front yard. We'll have a sign probably up on the corner. One monument sign is probably what you would get. But the sign program, as the code currently is written, has to be approved by the Planning Commission. Number 41, it was just a comment from the applicant, and we agree, and we've run into that too. The applicant on number 50.
On 41, you changed the 2 to 5?
I don't think on this plan it makes any difference.
All
I
right.
think they have the 5.
So just leave it the way.
They're okay. I think the applicant was making a point for us to fix our boilerplate condition.
Right.
And the code. Number 50, the applicant did ask to be deferred by covenant. That's the extension of the Bristow Channel. I think, Marcus, the engineering section is still recommending that that be a requirement.
That's correct.
And we'll research that one. And the applicant asked that number 51 be deferred by covenant. That's the street widening on Sunrise to 38 feet. If we're going to widen the box culvert, you want to widen the street. And actually, in this particular location, it makes more sense to widen the street from Sunny Dunes back to the intersection. And the only reason that the shopping center did not widen the street when it went forward is the box culvert was not going to be required to be redone back then. So we kept the curb alignment so it matched up with the box culvert back when that project was approved. And that's why I think there might be something in the council record on joint funding of the box culvert, because it was debated. I remember the public hearings.
So we should leave 51.
Engineering's recommending that you leave 51, and it probably makes sense, even though it's a cost to the applicant to move the curb back. Number 53, you did have public comment. I believe the comment was that they suggested that maybe that be a meandering combination sidewalk. You're going to have a 25-foot setback area. We'd have to have an easement onto the private property. It could work. You're just going to split your landscaping back, part of it up near the curb, part of it, behind the sidewalk. You could, and you've done it in the past, you've allowed it to be really subject to the final design, either adjacent to curb or meandering. In this case, it's matching up to adjacent to curb to the north. 55, the applicant suggested that we have low-level landscaping instead of cobblestone in the nose area. And you've got, a range of opinions on that. It's a policy call. If you want landscaping, put landscaping in. If you like the rocks, leave the rocks. It's your call on that one. Which one?
61, that was addressed by Marcus.
Yeah, 61, I don't think there were any changes. We clarified it. I think that was it. You would need to, if you commission, wants to, you can reduce the number of lots to 7, and we'll just write the condition that they reallocate the lots dimensions before the council meeting, so the council approves the actual 7 lots. And that could be condition number 7. Yeah, you just say 7 on condition number 7. And I think we covered most of the items, Mr. Chairman. If we didn't, please ask us questions.
Thank you. Back to the commission. Any more further thoughts? I suppose if we did back the number of lots to 7, it would give the homeowner the opportunity to decide what he wants to put in the way of driveway or whatnot. If they want to do it, they can. If they don't, they don't. But maybe some people would like to have the horseshoe driveway, and this would maybe give them a better chance to have it. And if they don't want it, they don't have to have it.
You know, Mr. Chairman, I'm about to make a motion, but I want to make a comment. As in all projects in the city, and especially as you get into these infill ones, the real trick here, and the applicant knows better than anyone, is in the design.
Yeah.
And so what we're really doing is setting the framework under which they can design a property and drop something on there. And I would encourage the applicant to be aware of where driveways go in and out, and if you can work with the neighbors in terms of pointing and lighting and how that works, obviously that'll go well. With that, then, I'd move approval of case 5.0954, PD 242, subject to the conditions in a staff report with the following changes. First, the condition number 29, add the language from the code, only allowable sign can be an ID sign and/or convenience signs on the property.
Missed some in here.
I'll be back to that.
Oh.
Those conditions 50 and 51, I'm going to just leave alone until you research what's going on with I'll leave them as engineering wants them until you find out what's going on with the shopping center, and you may want to, we would certainly encourage you to address that at the council if it's warranted by that. Condition number 55, I'm going to further muddy the waters and leave it as, and shall have cobblestone paving or landscaping.
Or low-level.
Low-level landscaping, so you can make the call. Again, I don't want to put more burden on the city than they can already handle. I'm certainly in favor of landscaping, but others may want to make that decision that have to pay the bill, meaning the city council. And also then, I think one benefit for the neighborhood, I think that would allow us, I think we ought to change condition 7 from 8 to 7 lots. And that starts to deal with the scale issue, and that's my motion.
Before you make it a motion, 53, subject to final design.
The sidewalk meandering.
Yeah, I want to leave that in the
Subject to
design as
final
well.
design.
You have to state subject to final design, because
Yeah.
it doesn't say that.
Okay, on 53 would be a design detail or subject to final design.
Okay. And with that, I'll second that motion.
Any further discussion?
Low-level.
All in favor, please?
It's a roll
Oh, it's a
call.
roll call. I'm sorry, public hearing. Thank you. Where's
Where is
Michelle?
she?
She's way
Michelle.
over there.
Hidden in the corner.
So we'll have Mr. Evans do our roll call for us.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Grins?
Aye.
Mr. Hokenadel?
Aye.
Ms. Morantz?
Aye.
Mr. Matthews?
Aye.
Mr. Wright?
Aye.
Ms. Conrad?
Aye.
Mr. Chairman?
Aye. Approved unanimously. We'll take about a 7-minute break, and we'll get back.
We only had one item? Oh, geez.
I know.
This is item 1. Okay. got a chair somewhere. Oh, yeah. You're right. I don't know which one it is. It's here somewhere. Okay. Turn phone off.
We're looking for some more members, and we're going to try and get this meeting.
Bye.
We'll call item number 4. This is case 5.0975 and 6.473. Application. Sorry. Application by Happy Valley. This is like herding cats right here. Application by Happy Valley LLC for a conditional use permit and variance to reduce the rear yard setback to 10 feet and high-rise setbacks, consideration of a special street section, and consideration of a request for vacation of the north half of Arenas Road adjacent to the project for the Marquee Timeshares for 86 timeshare units located on the northwest corner of Arenas and Collier and Celia, Zone R4, Section 14. Staff report, please.
Thank you. Briefly, we are asking for a continuance today at the request of the applicant. There's some additional staffing work to be done, and there may be a renoticing required. We're asking that you open the public hearing and take testimony today.
We'll open the public hearing on item number 4. Anyone here wishing to speak on this item, please come forward, give us your name and address, sign the clipboard, confine your comments to 3 minutes. Anybody here wishing to speak on item number 4? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing, and we have a motion to continue.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion by Ms. Morantz to continue the matter to January 14.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And a second by Mr. Matthews. All in favor? We need a roll call vote, don't we? Yeah.
Hearing item, yes.
So we better have a roll call vote. Mr. Grentz?
Aye.
Mr. Hokenadel?
Aye.
Ms. Morantz?
Aye.
Mr. Matthews?
Aye.
Mr. Wright?
Aye.
Don't make me do this.
Mrs.
Conrad, she's not here.
Conrad.
Ms. Conrad, Mr. Schoenberger, aye. Passes unanimously.
Thank you.
See, I don't have the signs in front of me, so I got to sit here and stumble through this.
Think.
Yeah, who are all these people? So that matter's continued. We'll move on to item number 5.
Mr. Chairman?
I'm not doing that again. Yeah.
I've
Mr.
got a
Grentz?
conflict of interest. I live within 500 feet of the residence.
All right, so we got item number 5, 5.0987, application by KFC Construction for Alice So and Jean Meyer for a conditional use permit to construct a new casita in addition to an existing casita located at 899 Avenida Palmas, R1B Zone, Section 11.
We had some. Hey, do you have this one?
Mr. Chairman, I'm going to abstain from this item as I believe that a company that I am negotiating with to enter into a contract with also does business with this property.
Okay. Do we have a staff report?
Mr. Chairman, Matthew Fesky will give you the staff report.
Right.
Thank you. Thank you. The property is located on Avenida Palmas and Tamarisk Road. It fronts Avenida right here, so I apologize for in the staff report it says Avenue Palmas, and that's incorrect. But this is a new guest house. It's actually going to be a maid's quarters, though. It's detached from the main house. They do have an existing guest house here, which is comprised of approximately 1,200 square feet. The new maid's quarters or guest house is approximately 600 feet. The total will be 1,802 square feet, which is roughly 4% of the lot, but it does exceed the 1/50th of the lot size. Therefore, a conditional use permit is required.
The color and material will be consistent with the main house, tile roof, and stucco. And the applicant is here from KFC Construction, and there have been 3 calls I've received from the neighbors. One is in support of the new addition, and there are 2 that oppose. One of the neighbors is here, and his correspondence is included in the packet that I gave you before the meeting started. And if there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer them, and I believe there are also the neighbors would like to speak also.
Thank you. Any questions of staff? This is a public hearing item. Anybody wishing to speak on this item, please come forward now. Please confine your comments to 3 minutes. Give us your name and address and sign the clipboard, please.
That one right there.
If you just stay about 8 inches from the microphone, it works the best.
You can tell I'm not a public speaker.
That's all right.
Good afternoon, council members and Mr. Chairman. My name is Theodore.
Commission members, we haven't been promoted to council yet.
Okay.
So
Where did I get? Oh, I just read it wrong.
That's all right.
My name is Theodore Gurnick, and both my wife, Louise, and myself are retired. We both reside at 925 North Avenida Palmas. This is right next door to the subject property at 899 North Avenida Palmas. First of all, I would like to say we both vehemently object to the construction and conditional use permit applied for. Through our vast past experiences, the above case can be abused very easily. Now, my wife would like to proceed and speak further on this matter. Okay?
Thank you, sir.
I am Louise Gurnick, and my husband and I have been private developers for 30 years, starting in San Francisco and thank you, and starting in the southern part of the state, in Santa Cruz. At that time, we built exactly the same size house, not a casita, and it's not a little place for guests. We built many of those houses in the area around the beach because all of the houses prior to our coming were about exactly the same size. They were wooden, and we had to have permits to tear them down. Today, those are the most popular rentals they have. It's 600 square feet. And that's what they want to put next to us, next to our bedroom. And I understand it's for the maids, which is preposterous. We would not object if they do what we did when we came down here 3 years ago from Hillsborough. The former owners of our property, which was the original home of General George Patton, lived in Canada. And they came down only very infrequently. They didn't know all the terrible things that were going on next door at the notorious Marilyn Monroe Motel. That's what happened with a conditional use permit. The owners at the Marilyn Motel owned their property about 7 years. We came down about 3 years ago. The owners of our property knew nothing about what was going on next door, where the owner was taking in about $5,000 every weekend. And it went on for years. But the noise was atrocious, and it wasn't until the new chief of police came in and found out about it and sent the housing people over that they knew what was going on. They would have as many as 100 people there on weekends. The listing people who provided the rentals had on their contract there should be only 12 sleeping there with 4 children. We never had anything that gentle or genteel. We had hundreds out there. And the last time that it happened, there were new people moving in across the street, and they say, this is not anything we can tolerate. So they got the name of the owner. The owner received a letter, and in fact, he received notices from the police department, ignored them. And this is the situation we have with your conditional use permit. All right, on this property where this new 600 square foot structure is to go, you have a house which is already too big for the property. Next door to it, you do not have a casita. You have a house, a 1,200 square foot home, actually, for, it's a house. And it's supposed to be called a guest house. So if you want to look at this place, you have one of the greatest rental areas potentially in the whole city because it's beautiful. All the area is very, very beautiful. We have only 4 lots on our side of the street, 4. But we are squeezed between the conditional on this side and the conditional on the other side. So we are experts. We can tell you how it can be abused by an owner who doesn't care. And these new owners, we are told by the realtor, we do not know the people at all. We were told that they would be out of town, that they would frequently be away, and it would be used only occasionally. And where we had the 7 years of misery, other people and ourselves, they also have an out-of-town owner who lives in Pasadena. He's always unavailable when the neighbors called him because his telephone number was given around to everybody. And it was only until your people went in, sent by the chief of police, the new one, and the housing people found that they were this man had people sleeping in the garages and sleeping in the wine cellar. So now we know where all these people went, all through the house. We ourselves were brought through the house one time when they were having a benefit, an extremely small house with 1 average-sized bedroom and 2 very tiny ones. You could only walk around the bed. And then you have the garage, you have all this, and imagine 100 people out there. The police took in about 200 people just before the last episode, 200 people. They were taking out prostitutes, and the police department can verify all of this. They were taking out drunks. They were taking out all kinds of riffraff. That the man who was doing the party was from Los Angeles. He just invited everybody in. And this is what happened with the conditional use. We are very much opposed to it. We're more than opposed to it. We even threatened to sue because we had 2 owners who said, will you join us? But we found out the city doesn't really have any money, so why worry? I mean, why sue you? All we want to do is work with you. Now, the only thing we can suggest is that they use the existing garage. It's a 3-car garage at the front of the property. It's there now, so it's tolerated, even though everything is overbuilt. We would have no objection if they convert that with the permission of the city into a guest house or into whatever they want. They can call it a casita guest house, but not to exceed the square footage right now. And they can bring cars in. We are very familiar with the lot. It's very, very beautiful. It used to belong to Harold Lloyd. There's plenty of parking, plenty of places they can put temporary cover on their cars. And they would still not have to fight anybody. All they'd have to do is get a permit, because that's what we did on our premises. We came down for 1 solid year and rebuilt the General's house. It is such good condition now that our insurers insured it as a brand new house. And we're not willing to give up all that money and all that time just to have somebody come in and maybe have a maid service or something. That's ridiculous. We won't do it.
Thank you, ma'am. We appreciate your comments.
All right, thank you.
Anyone else wishing to speak on this item? Where is this? Where is it?
Thank you. Okay, I knew I'd lose it.
Oh. Oh, yeah. What do we call it? Yeah. Anyone else wishing to speak on this item? If not, we'll close the public hearing and go back to the commission for comments and action. I guess I'm a little confused. I'm now finding out where this is on Tachiva, near where the Desert Hospital Medical Facility office building is. Yeah, and it's just to maybe you can clarify what is on this property. I mean, we have a house that. How big's the house? How big's this other building? And are we getting overbuilt?
The existing main house is approximately 4,300 square feet, and the existing guest house is approximately 1,200 square
Right.
feet. With the new casita, the total lot coverage will be 19%.
Right. So it must be a big lot.
The lot itself is 44,000 square feet.
44,000 square feet?
The house is only 10% of that now.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's a big lot. Okay. All right, other comments?
Yeah.
Mr. Wright?
My question is, are there other residences in that area that have more than one guest house? Or is that the only one that has this?
Well, I can tell you, I cannot recall any permits going through the Planning Commission for additional guest houses, and I'm pretty familiar with the neighborhood. Some of these are very large, very old estates. Without doing an aerial survey, I couldn't tell you for sure. It is not uncommon in, Las Palmas.
I think I did.
And some of our other neighborhoods to have multiple buildings on residential properties. Multiple guest houses. It is, not the norm, but on the large estate lots, we have some that have many, many buildings. And in some cases, we have houses that have individual rooms set up all over the property. When staff looked at this, and believe me, we're very knowledgeable about the problem at the house to the north of the couple that testified. I've been in charge of the Code Enforcement Division. I've literally been in public hearings with the manager of that property at the microphone saying they never have events, and I've got a code enforcement officer on site watching them take the party stuff into the house during the meeting. So we've had a real hard time. They kind of forget that the government has ways to watch things and to have the testimony while they're loading it up for a party saying they're not going to have a party. So we've struggled with that. In fact, the Planning Commission at one point proposed regulatory controls on houses like this, and the City Council never took a real action upon it.
Is the applicant here?
I don't believe the applicant is here.
All right. And there are code
Yes,
enforcement?
actually,
Oh.
KFC Construction is here.
What?
We've not had any problems on this house. I mean, this particular property is not the problem property. I want to make sure that's clear.
Okay.
It's to the north, 2 lots away from this property. The Patton House that the people that testified is in between. And I think they're concerned, and let me point out where they are.
And Doug, just to kind of to close the book on the party house, has the condition there been mitigated or taken care of?
Well, evidently the night of the big event it was by the police department, it's continuing activity. I mean, they ebb and flow. They'll have a big event and then they'll go quiet. I'm not in charge of code enforcement,
Right.
so I don't hear every complaint that comes in. The Monroe House is right here. The Tachiva office building, and then Desert Hospital is over here, continuing to the north. The couple that testified live in this house at 925, and you can see the size of that property. And then the subject property is located here, and then you have one additional house at this location. And then these houses down to here were part of a subdivision that Mr. Green Landau Development did. This is a large estate property that has a main house and an outbuilding. I don't know what the outbuilding is. And then this was an estate lot here that was subdivided, and 2 houses were built here with the main house there by Landau Development. You've got some pretty big lots up here, but they're behind walls, and I've not been on every property in the neighborhood, so I couldn't answer the question that Commissioner Wright had. So this property has been very quiet. I can tell you when the peak activity of this property occurred, I talked to the owner from Canada on a regular basis, because he would come down for a month or month and a half, and there'd be 8 parties during that period of time in a single-family zone, or excuse me, on that lot. So they were concerned, and have been for quite some time of that activity. But that's the neighborhood layout, and again, on a large lot like that, we looked at it, and the building coverage is still well below the maximum allowable. The actual main house is probably small for the lot, and they've got the outbuildings.
Now, I guess at least for now, we can put in the conditions that it not be rented.
That is correct. You can put that in the conditional use permit.
Do we have that in there?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And they've indicated in their discussions with Matthew they won't rent it, but
Yeah.
the applicant is here and might have some additional testimony.
Anything else? You want to go ahead and give us your name and address, please, and sign the clipboard when you leave.
I did. My name is Kevin Farmer. I live in 41461 Jamaica Sands, Bermuda Dunes. The intent for the sole use of this house, my client plans to retire here in a short number of years. The request for the maid's quarters is because the additional guest house had a second kitchen, and Palm Springs only allows 1 sink per lot. So they've gutted that to be strictly a 2-bedroom, 2-bath guest suite. The maid's quarters is for when they retire, for the servant help to live in and then commute to the main house for the kitchen use and whatnot. But it's a 1-bedroom, 1-bath.
Okay.
Maid's quarters.
Thank you.
Sure.
So if we let you put a sink in the other existing building, that wouldn't be a problem?
I'm sorry?
In the existing building, that's the guest house today, that doesn't have a sink.
No, it did.
It did?
Yeah, but to conform to the new codes.
Right, but the laws changed as of January 1st. If you're allowed to put a sink in there, would that be acceptable to the owner, do you think?
Actually, the owner wants to bring their children here, too.
Yeah.
So, they're going to retire and use it as guest quarters.
Yeah, I'm going to let the council decide one. Mr. Chairman, I'd move a denial of case 5.0987.
Dies for lack of a second. We had a motion to approve. Well, I don't think that we ought to, that it's fair to punish this property owner because of what goes on at the Marilyn Monroe house.
Oh, I'm not. I don't want multiple guest
Yeah,
houses on these lots just because they're large.
But a lot this size, it's a acre.
Do a lot split.
I'm wondering why I'm sorry that we could not speak to the owners of the property, because, if they had requested a major addition to the house, I don't think there would be any problem with it.
Right.
But to have 3...
Yeah, they could attach the maids to the house.
Right. That would have required a second to my motion.
Well, say it again, maybe I'll second it.
But I'm still kind of struggling with this too. If it would be okay to build the 600 square feet onto the house, I'm not sure why it's troubling people that is not built connected to the house. If we have a condition of the conditional use permit that it can't be rented, it seems to me we're satisfying the major concern that the neighbors have. Now, I understand they're gonna be thinking, well, we say it can't be rented, but then they rent it anyway. That assumes people are going to break the law and violate their CUP, and I'm not going to assume that and deny a permit because we're assuming that somebody's going to break the law. Yeah, yes.
I just wanted to make a comment that the owners of the property, the new owners, are not in the country. They do not live currently in the country. That's why they are not present.
Okay.
So, I can see both sides of this, but I think that yeah, Doug?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, in decision-making, sometimes a continuance for additional information from the property owners. They've hired an agent that's really worked with us. You may want a statement, from the owners, just so you understand what they do. I can tell you, having dealt with the celebrity home complex, there are half a dozen to a dozen homes that have cycled into that business in the community. The property in this neighborhood was the most offensive to its neighbors. So I think there's a sensitivity level. But in our top-end neighborhoods, whether it be in Las Palmas or Movie Colony, guest houses and maids' quarters were common and part of life. Mm-hmm. And, the question we get into, and I know where Mr. Matthews is concerned, the state law basically says, if you meet certain criteria, secondary units in the state of California are allowable in every single family zone in every city without a conditional use permit, and they can be rented. The city attorney's office, at the request of the Planning Commission, is evaluating our charter city status. They're evaluating legislation. They've not come back with a recommendation, but I know Commissioner Matthews is concerned that the state law, may preempt us. And at that point, if they meet criteria, they could put the kitchen back in the other one, and and use that as a rental and still have a maid's quarters. So it's going to be a little bit awkward, until this city and then the state law settles down relative to that field. But you might want to find out a little bit more from the owners before you take action, because I can see the commission has got mixed feelings about this. And
well, I'm not. The last thing I want to see imposed on these folks is more grief. And if I thought that were the case, I would not be voting in favor of this. But I don't sense that that's going to happen here. I don't sense that these people are going to turn this into a party house. I don't sense that they have any intention of renting this unit. And so if I'm not that bothered by it.
Mr. Chairman, I'm in agreement with you. I don't think and I sympathize with the folks that came before us, but I don't think that we should penalize the new owner or the new developer for the mistakes of others. I'd like to make a motion that we approve, subject to the conditions of approval of staff report, case 50987, application by KFC Construction for the LSI So and G. Meyer for a conditional use permit to construct a new casita in addition to the existing casita located at 899 Avenue, Nada Palmas.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? We're going to need a roll call vote, and I'm not going to call the roll.
I will call the roll, Mr. Chairman.
You got the signs.
Yes. Mr. Hocanedo?
Aye.
Ms. Morantz?
No.
Mr. Matthews?
No.
Mr. Wright?
Aye.
And we record 2 abstentions on this one. They've already stated their abstention. Oh, Mr. Chairman, excuse me.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Passes 3-2.
We have to get our people back. They're probably watching on TV.
What, in the TV thing? They kicked everybody out?
Did you guys get it done?
Yeah.
Which one was it?
They locked the door on me.
No, I agree. Yeah.
Yeah, there was a casino.
No, I agree, we ought to be able.
It's still the same.
No, we ought to be able to do that.
This isn't the.
Yeah, no, I agree, we ought to be able to do that.
No, this is, well, this is adjacent to it. This is not the Maryland Roll, it's 2 doors down.
What took so long? They just went.
Well, who's control? Can't Doug tell them to do it?
Yeah.
Did you prove it?
Yeah.
We're going to move on to case number 7, 3.1777 application by Landau Development Company for architectural approval for a new single-family residence at 310 Crestview Drive, R1C Zone, Section 27.
Mr. Chairman, this is a house by Landau Development Company that they've worked on and off on for a while. Gabriel Diaz will give you the update on it, and I might have to clarify the location, but if you could start with the location, Gabriel.
Behind me again.
All right, we have a single family.
The location of this residence is off Crestview Drive. It's off East Palm Canyon, South Palm Canyon, going towards Beauregard Trail. This used to be, I guess, for some of you who've been here a while, this used to be the old Bono residence. Right here. Correct. That's the empty lot. There you see all these green. That's the Bono residence to the east. It's currently vacant, and currently the way they positioned this house was to have the garage come in. It's kind of elevated higher than the street, like not much, but just a little. So that way the water flows away from the garage, not into the garage. And then once you're in the garage, you walk down the step about 3 feet to the main level. And then there's the second story, or the bottom story, first story here, which is 10 feet further down. The ultimate height of this building is 28 feet, 5 inches. It's basically a 2-sided lot on Camino. There's the main road on Crestview, and then there's Camino Way, which is just dirt. It's undeveloped. It's not a. It's just a dirt road, if it's a road. The applicant is asking for an AMM for the height because it does exceed the 18 feet, but it is hillside. And as you can see, it from the Crestview elevation, it's just a regular single-family home. But from the Camino elevation, which drops into that little ravine back there, it's a 2-story home, as you see in the rear elevation here. Design review liked it. The only revision that they thought would be better for this project was to bring some of this brick work on the rear elevation to the front elevation, just so the whole architecture matches all the way around. There is a pool proposed in the backyard, and then a series of kind of retaining walls, because at the end it just drops, I think, 20 feet or so, from 486 to 466 from the pool to this area.
One of the other requirements was on the east property line, which is the right side elevation, which is the one that catches your attention. It probably could have been rendered a little bit better with the, the way the walls and the property works, and the fact that they're going to have some landscaping. You've got a pretty steep drop off in that location. and what they're going to do is excavate back. You know, I don't think it will be a significant hardship on the neighbor. We did send a notice to the neighbors. Gabriel, did anybody come in?
Nobody commented.
Yeah. And we worked real hard, and we appreciate Landau Development's efforts. We pushed this pad down from the street. I mean, originally they wanted it up a little bit higher. They were concerned about water getting to the front door. And, you know, they redesigned this house to push the pad down about as far as we can do it off of the front elevation, and then having it step off and be two-story in the back as it cascades down. It's not an uncommon solution in that particular neighborhood.
What elevation do the neighbors see? And I'm assuming, and I'm still a little disoriented on how this, what direction all of this is facing in, but I assume there's nobody to the west of this house?
That is correct. There's
All right.
an empty lot right here. There's a home here, which is this lot, as you can see right there.
What elevation does that homeowner see?
They'll see the left elevation. They'll see this part.
So is there any neighbor who is going to see the two-story elevation?
The way it will work, if you take a look at it on the right side elevation, that is the east elevation. It actually is facing the parking courtyard for the former Bono or Gillette estate, depending on how far back you want to go with the history of it. So there's a large parking courtyard, there's carports, so you're not overlooking any property that I would call private, although, you know, certainly on a big estate, any overlook. As far as the rear elevation, that faces across a little bit of a valley to a series of houses that build up the hillside, a combination of 1- and 2-story houses across the ravine.
Right.
The brutal elevation, which is the right side one,
elevation,
is really going to just have to be landscaped, and I think there's some property line walls. So if you put all the landscaping and what you actually would see in front of it, you're going to see a little bit of the upper first level, the lower level, and then you would also look up to that second level.
Well, the right side elevation is the one that concerns me. Does that border, who does that border on, or who's going to be looking at that?
That's the Bono residence, which is
Okay.
here.
All right.
And
All right.
as you can see, they have very mature landscaping there.
I'm okay.
Herman Woke, right? Murray Demetrio. That's those Biltmore people, right? Up here across from the empty lot.
Don't know the
Yeah, that had the problem, yeah. Empty lot. The one I worry about is this elevation. Is that Mark Benedetti right here? And he said nothing? He looks at that.
Benedetti is further to the east.
Okay.
And I think they moved. No.
No, they still live there.
Do they?
Or their Christmas card said that. I mean, if he hasn't said anything, I don't care. He's probably going to frame it, but.
Yeah. You know, the immediately to the east, it's the Bono estate, the big driveway that goes up
You
the
don't
back.
see this from there.
Parking courtyard.
No, you don't see it from there. It's behind.
Yeah. And then the Benedetti is further to the east before you get to this. To that house.
This is a very expensive neighborhood. Is that two-piece tile?
Yes, it will be used to police clay tile.
It's U.S. Tile El Camino Blend 2-piece.
Right.
Have we got some,
Mr.
a
Chairman,
motion?
I will move approval of case number 3.1777, application by Landau Development Company for architectural approval of a new single-family residence at 310 Crestview Drive, R1C Zone 27.
I'll second.
All right, I want to get Jerry in the minutes here. Any further comments? All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We'll move on to item 8. Case 5.0666, application by Palm Springs Classic for final development plans for the Classic, including landscape plans located at the southeast corner of Vista Chino Road and Gino Autry Trail.
Before you, we have grading plans and landscape plans and some site cross-sections for your review today. This does not include wall plans or any of the architectural improvements, entryway plans, and the like, lighting plans. Those will be coming to you a little later. What we've got for you today is the golf course improvement plans and grading so that they can get started with golf course design development. The primary concern of staff at this point is that we are really looking for, and all along I think the Council and Planning Commission has looked for view corridors into the golf course. Under the design of the project, we have about 1,050 foot of frontage on the State Highway Gene Autry Trail. And there is pretty significant berming along Gene Autry Trail. Part of it is golf course design, safety and security to keep golf balls on the site. And there's a trade-off for that. Along holes 13, 14, and 15, we'd like to see the fairway and golf area brought down so it's closer to the level of the highway, although the golf course designer has some concerns about eliminating or removing the berming and bunkers, which they feel would cause kind of a dangerous situation, wouldn't provide for stopping of overshot or misshot golf balls. The road elevations range from about 407 to 403. I'll show you where you can slice and hook in a minute. The road elevations are from 403 to 407. The berms range from about 414 to 417. And the course ranges in height from about 407 to about 412, but there's a lake at 400 feet. I'll kind of show you what you see, then the applicant's design team will walk before you and probably answer a couple questions as well. Okay, for orientation purposes, Vistacino, Gene Autry Trail. Top is north. We have the overall grading plan. The landscape plans, essentially it's a tree planting plan at this stage. When design review looked at it, they had one concern about the plant material, and that was whether the Phoenix dactylifera was an appropriate plant species, which is a date palm. And they essentially said that that's a species that may not be appropriate for the city of Palm Springs, except in limited applications in areas of entryways, but probably not on the golf course. It's a very formal design tree. You've seen them, kind of, right, creates a formal entryway, so that would be acceptable, but not along the golf course. So you can see, what you'll see is that they've put a line through that, but the rest of the plant species were pretty good, kind of right on the mark, just for golf course planting at this stage. The golf course design includes a number of environments: desert riparian, 3 different types of desert riparian environments, a riparian island environment, lake island, desert landscape perimeter, turf trees, and bunker faces. The bunker faces are almost limited to just those areas around the holes. I don't want to walk you through each of the ones and the length of the course. It's design review, needless to say, was comfortable with the design, but they had some concerns. The primary area of our concern today is holes 13, which your box and your tees right here. Thanks, Marv. For the record, would you like to state your abstention?
So does the chairman?
I'm part
No,
owner
not
of
above those.
the
We're going to need this.
adjoining 42 acres
Thank you.
right next to this.
Okay. And Mr. Chairman?
Screwed up again, didn't you?
Yeah, and I don't know why, I'm just sitting here with a brain dead, but we had to abstain from this once before because of CS3F, a partnership interest in a neighboring property, so, yeah.
Thank you very much.
1, 2, there's 4.
No, I'm fine. I'm
He's
just a
fine.
bad golfer. Yeah,
Okay.
I can,
No, he's the one.
As I was saying, there's concern of the 3 holes where you have the 1,150 foot of frontage, 13, 14, and 15. The primary hole where there would be some danger with missed shots hitting the state highway would be hole 13. Tees here, dog legs, and your green. We have approximately a view corridor in this area, through here, and then through here. The road is about 403 feet in height with berming at 411, back down to a area right inside the dogleg at 403. So your visibility isn't going to be too good here. The range is also at the northernmost portion. If you're coming south, it's a 407 in the highway, a 415 berm, and then a 400-foot elevation of the water. You really wouldn't be able to see much inside the project because you're going to have an 8-foot berm right here. Those are probably the two most extreme conditions. There's limited view corridors here and here. What I'll do is I'll show you the cross section right here. Yes, it is. Gene Autry Trail, desert landscaping moving up, and then the lake elevation right here. So you'd be able to see this area. It's going to be green, well landscaped, but you're not going to really see any of the golf action here. Gene Autry Trail here in section BB,
I don't know.
going over the turf and then into this area. You may be able to see some action on this upslope. And lastly here, probably wouldn't be able to see too much on the inside of the project. We have had some concerns. We would like to see if there's a way to redesign this portion of the project to create a greater symmetry between the road heights and the heights of the inside of the golf course and potentially lower these berms. The applicant's representative will address the Planning Commission and answer any questions you may have.
I think real simply what we would suggest that you do is approve this subject to staff working out golf course visibility with the applicant. The way I looked at this, and I've heard the arguments about safety and whatever. You have one long hole that approaches number 13 along the south property line. You come to a hinge point, you get your small irons out, and you at that point are going to the green. So that one you may need a little bit of protection for the long drive. If you go north of that, the next hole is number 14, and you tee off and go away from Gene Autry. So unless you're like me, unless you hit a fungo bat for a catcher where you hit it up and behind you, you don't have a problem there. If you take a look at number 15, which is the opposite side of the lake, you've got a pretty good distance, almost a third the distance of a fairway, long fairway. And I think what we're trying to do, and I know what we talked to them about, was that originally the Classic project was designed where a large percentage of the golf course could be seen from Gene Autry. Because they went to a different housing product and project design, we approved most of the golf internal, so the real estate was maximized. But with this one area on the proviso, we want to see golf course amenities, at least for that 10 or 15 seconds that you're going down Gene Autry, so people see it's a golf course and not just berms and fences.
Mr. Evans, my question is, I know there's certain areas at the municipal course. I don't know if it's the Tockwitz course or the Legend course where they have the big bollards and they have enough landscaping. You can tell it's a golf course. Yet, I don't think there's been a problem on
El Cielo.
On El Cielo at all. I mean, I can tell you about some cars getting hit on Bellardo Road. Now, I won't mention that golf course. And then their tamarisk trees are 10, 12, 14 feet high. So certainly there's always that chance.
And that golf hole is a short par 4 along parallel El Cielo, and guys that think they can hit the ball try to hit it in one.
Women too.
And some of the long women, they try to hit it in one, and you hook the ball, and it goes out in the street. You don't have that condition here. You're either ending or going away.
My sense here is, I really don't want to design this golf course. I want the golf course designer to do it. I think you can get the view corridors and let them build the berms up. What you may want to do is route the cart path around there so you can see people driving to the. If your objective is to see golf, I mean, you're going to get some shots. Frankly, you'd like people to pay attention to the road as well. Wouldn't be bad. And I'm sort of wondering why this is here, so I'd
Make
like.
a motion.
I'd like to move that we approve this, subject to you working the
I've got a
view quarters
question.
out with the staff.
Well,
Can you
let's
ask
hear
it
it.
after the second?
Okay.
Okay.
We have a motion and a second. Discussion.
Yeah, Marvin, issue on the trees.
Marvin, come talk about the
Washingtonian
trees.
Phylifera, the statement palm tree of Palm Springs, California fan palm. Washingtonian robusta, the most common palm tree in the valley, big, tall, stately, skinny trees. There are none on the plan. A Phylifera is $200 a foot now versus $50 a foot for a robusta. No comment made by design review, or what's happening there? Because that's the tree you see every golf course has got. Robustas everywhere. That's our skyline tree all over town.
I think
What-
the intent from,
There are phylifers on the plan, no robustas.
That's what I mean, though. I see there's Phylliferas, but no robustas, but the robusta is the more common, cheaper tree that grows so tall.
I think design review was saying, just take they prefer not to have the date palms as a golf course tree. And then they can come back, and if they want to get taller palm trees in, the robustas will probably buy
Okay.
in. This is still a preliminary landscape plan for the golf course. It's not the final.
We have a, do you want
I just,
a motion and a second already, too?
we're comfortable with the motion, and the reason it's here is it's final development plan. That's why it's here. And we'd be glad to work it out with, in terms of where it can be seen.
I think that's what the commission is saying.
Thank you.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? It's a go.
Alex, could you help Gabriel move those plans down while we get John? Gabriel, can you just move your plans down?
I don't know, let me ask him. John, did you get to go in there and watch it?
Yeah.
See, last week they wouldn't let me in.
No, because it was a bit loud in there. He doesn't want to. He's okay.
Okay.
I told him that I was going to tell everybody, don't see it.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, okay. I think this poor gentleman's been waiting forever. He missed the cutoff at 2 o'clock.
Marvin? Hey, Doug. Marvin, is this served on Grand Via Belmonte? Block it in camera skin.
Guy's going to design it.
Hello, me.
We're probably close to the, yeah, without injuring us.
Might have a record today, huh?
All right, we're going to keep going here and try and get this meeting done. And now we have item number 9, application by LaShank House Persian Cuisine for a sign program at 621 North Palm Canyon Drive. Any abstentions?
Mr. Chairman, I
Yes.
have an abstention. I have a business interest that is probably right within that 500-foot mark.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Grintz.
I built it, but that was a long time ago. That one.
Okay, so do we have a staff report?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, while Gabriel finishes putting the exhibits up, this is a sign program for the existing restaurant at 621 North Palm Canyon Drive. We believe it's an appropriate sign program for the property since the building is set back so far and you have a building that comes right up out to the sidewalk. They have a problem with business identity. It's a small monument sign that you'd be able to see near their entryway. It's outside of the public right-of-way. Design review looked at it, recommended approval. Did they have any conditions, Gabriel?
Yes, Matt. Design review recommended that they match the existing sign that is currently there. The owner would prefer to use a yellow and red color. But that was design's review comment, and staff recommends that also. The other recommendation was to put it here, this little planter area that they have, but which is right here, and traffic's going southbound, the sign would be blocked by this big building here, which is over by Thai Smile, that little shopping area there. So I'd be willing to work with the applicant to relocate it further south on their property.
If they want to.
If well, he wants to. Because he brought up the point that it's not visible.
One of the things we're proposing in the redo of the architectural approval ordinance is to let staff approve sign programs. This gentleman would have had a sign permit a while back, so.
Yeah. Well, let's get him a sign permit.
Would you be willing to change the color of the existing sign if you want to have the new sign be the different colors?
Yes, I mean, that one we want to put it on the front of the street.
So, can we ask you, sit down and, if you would please, and give us your name and address, and
Yes, sir.
and we're trying to, accommodate the poor people in the broadcast room that are trying to televise this, and if we don't talk into the microphone, they get all nervous, so.
Yes, sir. Okay, my name is John Bageri, and I'm resident of Oakland, California, and I'm the owner of the restaurant. And the reason we're going to put this sign here, because our building and the existing door, entrance door is almost 45 to 50 feet back of the street. And before us, before our building, all of the stores is exactly at the front of the street. And we are almost 50 feet back. And nobody can see this sign right now. We have it. And everybody pass out and they couldn't come back, and it's really hard. Right now, we try to put the new sign at the front of the street and the side of the north side of the street. And the color, I ask you put it the red and yellow because I want to be more interested and more visible.
We understand the reason why you need to have the sign, and I don't think anyone has a problem with that. The question is, design review asked that you match your existing sign. We just want two signs that match.
Okay.
So are you do you want to change your main sign already and change it to the new colors? But you can't have two signs of two different colors. You can either have a matching sign or do a new.
No, because I have to pay a lot of money for that. I prefer do the new one also the same as this one. No.
I move approval of sign program application by LaShank House, and I just would like to ask, do you have Gay May Boat in June?
Mm-hmm.
Do you?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
I'll second that.
All right, so we have a motion and a second, subject to the conditions of approval and matching signs. All in favor?
Aye.
Please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Passes.
Thank you.
Good
very
luck with
much.
your restaurant. I'm sure it's very good.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
Sure.
We'll have to come and try it
We are
out.
waiting for you all the time.
Okay.
Come on.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much for everybody.
You're welcome.
Thanks. You can't go there for a year now.
Thank you.
Why?
Have a nice
Oh. Okay, well, we're almost done. Commission work program.
Mr. Chairman, I have no updates. We gave you an update last week.
Thank you. City Council action update?
Yes, this evening, the council has the new council members has their first meeting with a number of land use items in an agenda with a total of 35 items on it. The general plan amendments to circulation element, Mesquite Avenue on both ends, El Cielo, as well as down at South Palm Canyon Drive with Huddle Springs. We had one other general plan amendment for circulation element in there, and it escapes me right now. The Westman project in the tennis club, Huddle Springs project, Fringed Toe Lizard agreement, MOU, as well as a resolution of convenience and necessity for a beer and wine sales at gas station at Gene Autry and Ramon. So we have a full agenda tonight. That completes my update.
Thank you, Mr. Evans. Commission staff reports and requests. Any comments by anyone on? Happy holidays to everybody. We'll see you next year.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. It's been a very good year. We're going to start working on the annual report, and it's one of the most successful years this city's ever had relative to
No
good
question about
quality
it.
stuff.
We've really seen some terrific projects come through the commission, and I think it's an exciting time for Palm Springs.
I am happy to see that the classic project is a go.
That's gonna be great.
I've sat through it twice, and I'm so happy to see that. So.
Diane? I can talk to you.
We've got a serial agreement worked out.
Oh, that's wonderful. Are we adjourned?
Meeting's adjourned.